everyone. Welcome back to the BizBlend podcast where business meets mindset and modern leadership. I'm your host Sana, and today's conversation is for anyone out there building a business, a brand, or even a movement who's realizing that story isn't just marketing, it is power. And listeners, my guest today is Lechon Kirb. He is a creative entrepreneur, speaker, and author who's made it his mission to help creators and founders own their stories while building scalable, purpose driven businesses. He's also the founder of Market Theory, creator of the Impact Scaling Framework, and author of A Culture of Equity. Now, listeners, Lechon's worked with platforms like DigitalMarketer, Thinkific, ClickBank, and has helped over 30,000 entrepreneurs take control of their narrative, their IP, and overall their legacy. So, with that, Lechon, welcome to BizBlend, and I'm really excited to dive into this with you.
Sana, thank you so much for having me in that warm and amazing introduction.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your kind words, Lechon. So, let's start with the basics. Owning your narrative, it can be interpreted in so many different ways, but what exactly does that mean in the context of business? I mean, is it like branding or is it like your personal story or positioning or is it something deeper?
Um, First of all, it's a great question. Second is, it's kind of a combination of all these things. Most people communicate themselves online in some capacity, especially if they're in the entrepreneur space and that kind of thing. And usually we might call it brand or whatever, right? But it's really how the world perceives you and receives you. Like there's a way that people see you and they interpret what you say or what you do. And there's a way that you think that you're putting yourself out there. Sometimes those things are aligned and sometimes there's complete misalignment. And that misalignment doesn't purely stop with like the communication. A lot of times it really starts with how you even perceive the value of the thing that you're doing. So when I talk about like owning your narrative, it's
Mhm.
really about creating alignment between what you want to be putting out into the world, the systems and organizations that you're using to kind of create this impact, and then how do you make it so it's in full alignment with how you want to be spending your days because everything that you're doing really is in exchange for every other possibility. So if you're going to be creating value or doing stuff in the world, how do you do it so it's in alignment with the life that you desire?
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. That really makes sense. And I think a lot of founders, they assume that the storytelling or the journey behind their brand is all or can be all compressed, condensed into that about us page or who we are tab on their website. But I think what you said just now, it's something more strategic here. Something more valuable and strategic.
It is valuable, it is strategic, but backing up a little bit, like, in regards to story, our stories aren't just stories, they're really the filters that we use to experience our life through. They're not just something that happened, and often they're completely invisible. They're only visible to us internally, like, our frequency, our vibration. We know what happened. We know how we seen it. We know how we experienced it. But everyone that we come in contact with, that is completely invisible to them. So it's really our opportunity, I guess you could say, is to like unearth that and bring it to the forefront so that people really have a clear understanding of why are you doing this? Why should they care? Right. In the first place. And really it gives them the clarity of why you care in the first place, right? You ever
Yeah.
see a company and you're like, "Oh, there's a founder, they're making money or whatever, and they're talking about all the wins and all this kind of stuff," and which is I think maybe it's important, but I think the real thing is like, why should people even trade their attention for listening to you? What about what you're communicating is going to get them to believe that not only do you care about like creating a solution for them, but you're capable of it and it's coming from a core, true, position, a real place.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And Lashon, before we dive deep further into our topic, I mean, if it's okay with you, would you like to share a bit about your journey? I mean, what brought you exactly into the world of creativity, business, marketing? I mean, what's
Yeah.
the story behind that?
Uh, the short version is I was born into creativity, right? Like my mother was incredibly creative. Um, however, I did, early stage, I just embraced all of the different ways. To me, it's not even a matter of being creative. It's more of a matter of interpolating your interests, right? And it could be through the channel of creativity, which is what I normally do. But yeah, that started for me really, really early. But I'll tell you, when I was in first grade, like early kid, young kid, I was playing hide and go seek in my mom's house. I was with my cousin and my sister, and they got the idea that they were going to go hide in the basement. But I got the bright idea that I was going to go hide. Excuse me, I was going to go hide in the basement. They were going to go hide in the attic. And my mom had an old refrigerator down there, and I took out the racks and I climbed in it trying to get comfortable. And while I'm trying to get situated, I knocked the refrigerator over on the door. So now I'm trapped in the refrigerator in a basement and I'm screaming and I'm clawing and I'm trying to get out of there. And I really don't, I don't even know how long I was there, but I made luckily enough noise eventually where my mom ran down the basement, kicked the refrigerator over, and got me out of there. But that was the moment for me that I discovered I need freedom like I need oxygen. These things are like the same thing to me, So everything that I do creatively is really toward the goal of accessing some level of freedom. And that's led me into doing lots of different things over my journey. It led me into the military, it led me into software, it led me into multimedia and marketing. All of these different things are just, to me, different channels of how I could access that freedom.
Wow, how beautiful! You connected with that particular story from your childhood. I think it really touches, and I was kind of like picturizing everything when you were explaining. So I think that's where there's a lot of emotional connect with how those little moments and the lessons learned from there, they can be so pivotal, instrumental in the way you charter the course of your life. When you
100%.
think about your journey. That's really great, Nishan. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so now coming back, your impact scaling framework, it focuses on growing without compromising purpose. But if I could be honest, most scaling strategies are about metrics, lead funnels or sales funnels and automation, processes, systems, and all that. So, how do you, LaShawn, reconcile purpose driven storytelling with that, cold, objective math of scale?
Great question. I mean, to a degree, you're correct, right? Like these things are systems, organizations, right? Or tech, software. How do I grow an email list? How do I build a website? How do I get awareness? How much of it am I getting? Right? They're measuring what those metrics are, but there are other metrics. Like how do you feel at the end of the day? Like, if you're targeting an audience, is that audience just, people that you feel you could sell something to and they can buy it? Or are they people that you feel as though are really suffering from the challenge that you can create a solution to? So there's ways to really embed, these systems into the overall mission, the overall communities that you want to impact in a positive way. And it's not that you wouldn't use tech to do that, but it's more so making sure that if you are going to be creating a business or creating a solution, that A, you understand the value of the problem that you're solving for, right? And that value is truly in alignment with your true values internally. Like, I don't want to be doing business with people that I wouldn't want to be doing business with. No, uh, so it's really also about alignment and congruency as well. Like I also wouldn't go and market and sell some kind of solution to a community that I actually didn't have any experience or knowledge in helping them. That is just out of alignment with my true character, right? So I wouldn't do that. But there are people that would do that, but it's still at a compromise to their own internal compass, right? It's still out of alignment and they have to trade their life for it. So it's a bad trade. So I'm just suggesting that if you are going to need to use these systems and software and metrics and advertising and marketing dollars, that we use the tech and the systems and the tools to create more direct alignment with the life that we want to be living.
Hmm. And have you ever had to tell a client that you are chasing growth at the expense of your story, or you are misaligned with what you had envisioned?
You know, I've had lots of different kinds of discussions with people over the years, you know,
Mhm.
and I think sometimes it's just a matter of creating enough context for them to see what that outcome becomes. You know, like there's all these filters for how we see the world or we see our outcome or we see our business and like we see it a particular way that lives within the realm of what we know. And then outside of that there's like what we don't know, but that still kind of falls under the umbrella of what we know because we know we don't know it. However, outside of our entire sphere of focus, there's also a realm of what we don't know that we don't know. Now,
Yeah.
that just means we don't have at this stage the awareness to perceive how it's impacting us, but it doesn't mean that it's not impacting us. It just means that we lack the ability to do something about that, right? So when I think about how people operate with business, how they could operate with business, and if they're off alignment, it's just a matter of finding ways to bring things that are outside of their sphere of awareness into their perception ability.
Hmm. That goes deep. Okay. And this is also interesting. Lashon, in your book, which is titled as A Culture of Equity, you challenge creators to amplify their presence while staying true to their roots. Um, but in today's content scenario, which I kind of feel, do you think amplification sometimes demands oversimplifying or even kind of compromising the narrative to stay digestible for audiences? Because what I believe may not be resonating or connecting with my audience or my subscribers.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't really think everyone is your people, you know? So I do think sometimes people think that they need to just get as much awareness as possible, which I think is helpful in the long run, but it doesn't mean that it's exactly the message that you want. I think it's probably more impactful to be dead center with the who that you are, the why that you're doing this, the way that you communicate. And the people that resonate with you are your people. The people that gravitate toward that message are your people. Not simply just because you could get more people on your email list or you can grow your social media. You can have like a large, huge following that no one cares about, right? Like it doesn't really matter, right? So it's more about like creating that real connection and that and really building relationships in a way that if people hear you, they want to hear you out. If people hear you speaking, they have the sense that that is coming from a true place, that's a real thing, and it resonates with them. Otherwise, you're just creating more noise on the internet, and I don't really think that that serves anyone.
I absolutely believe that, and I completely agree. And I've seen, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. I mean, you have like million subscribers got there, but I mean uh, the engagement is less, or the views are less, or maybe people are not really connecting with you. So that's where the gap lies.
Well, I'll
So.
add to that too as well, because you could let's say that they are engaged
Okay.
and they're willing to move forward with whatever that you're putting out there. Okay, engagement could mean that you only have 5 people watching a video, right? I think we're
Mhm.
get discouraged is that they think that that means that they're not going to be profitable or they're not going to make enough money. But that doesn't mean that. You could have 10,000 people watching a video and make no money. You can have three people on there and that one person be the person that says, oh my God, I love the way that they think about this. I want to bring them into my organization and help me revolutionize everything for our culture. Here's a big check. Right. And so it's not like a one-to-one conversion. It's really just about like, having the alignment with what you're putting out there be so clear that for the right person, they're able to really take full advantage of what your message is.
Hmm. Yeah, I I completely agree with that. And Lishan, since you have coached, like 30,000 entrepreneurs, I'm really interested to know. I mean, what's the most common false narrative that you see founders or creators telling themselves? And how do you help rewrite it? Because it kind of there might be so much resistance to first of all realize that, so okay, maybe I'm not completely aligned with what I am sharing with others, or I'm building my brand on this, so I may have to change, I may have to work on this from the scratch.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think probably the biggest misconception is that people believe that they need to present themselves differently than they are, right? Like they're like, I need to put on a front. I need to make my brand look like this. I need to have all these other things in place. I need to, you know, have money to make money. Like there's all these mindset things. And it's not really like that. It really comes down to this. If you understand a clear solution for a
Mhm.
problem that you solve, right? And you're able to convey what that journey looks like, you make it easy for people to want to move forward with you and go deeper with you. And you don't necessarily need to have all the things figured out because a lot of times you were like, I don't have my website's not good and my photos aren't whatever, my logo's this or that, right? Like
I know.
these things don't have anything to do with your competency or the ability to solve that high value problem. So I think it's probably of much greater value to you to have a sense of like, what does your solution create on the other side of who you would be serving? Right. There are tons of organizations out there that are more than willing to like leverage and acquire your talent and skill set and then sell it to you as though like at a lesser value if you're not clear on what solution that you're creating on their end. So I think it's just more the thing that really stands out to me is that if you actually dial in and
Mm.
you don't perceive the things that you don't have already in place as a lack or a missing, then you can be much more effective with dialing in the problem and the solutions that you can create for them. And the misconception is that you need everything in place first, and you really don't.
That is true, so true. Yeah, because we often, get demotivated by saying, "Oh my goodness, that particular company or person or creator has such a beautiful website, beautiful pictures and so high quality stuff out there." But um, I think, yeah, it's one of the component determining the output, but I think in the long run, it's about what value you are providing through your content or through your messaging for the people out there who really connect with you. So that's really a great takeaway to take from this. And Lishon, I'm gonna put a bit of a contradictory perspective here. So some people say that focusing on, like, owning your narrative, it puts too much responsibility on the individual. But the real issue could be systemic inequity or maybe gatekeeping. So do you think, like, can narrative control really move the needle against structural barriers?
Yeah, I do. I mean, let me just back up a little bit, right? Like owning your narrative can look a lot of different ways. I do think that there are narratives that can paint whole groups of people a particular way. But that's why I'm saying that you need to own it, right? Like, because if you are in front of the way that you desire to be perceived, then all of a sudden that shift completely changes, right? Like, so, but having that awareness, not really fighting it, like it shouldn't be that way. That's where a lot of people get trapped. They're like, oh, it shouldn't be that way. I wish it wasn't like that. This is going to slow me down, or this is, yeah, you're allowed and capable of perceiving it in that way, or
Mm.
you really, really intentional with what you want to see more of in the world, how you want people to see you, how you want people to really receive you. And I think once you start embracing that, not really ignoring what structures or things that have blocked your progression, but also just like getting in front of creating solutions for that to be as accurate to what you want it to be perceived as possible. It's not mm, once again, there's no shortage of obstacles if you want to do anything in the world. But the real truth is this: everything you're doing, there it's in exchange for everything you could be doing in your life. And if you're going
Mhm.
to make that exchange, it should be meaningful to you. It should create solutions that allow you to spend more time with your family, have more resources, build up a life that you desire. And anything that's in the way of that or in opposition to that, you don't have to fuel it. You don't have to add more energy to it. You actually can create a more intentional direction with the way that you want people to engage that.
That's really insightful. Really insightful. Great, great. So, Lashon, before we wrap up, if our listeners would like to connect with you and explore more about how they can own their narrative, irrespective of the field they are in, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, you could find me on the internet. you know, you can just look up Lechon Kirb. I'm everywhere talking about all my ideas and stuff like that. I'm really, really active on LinkedIn and Instagram. You can also visit our various websites. So I'll put those up for you guys. But yeah, I'm on the internet. Just come find me, come connect with me. And I do the internet like a real person. If someone reaches out to me, I'll message them. I'll have a conversation. And if I can be helpful or, find a solution for what their challenge is right now, I'll connect them to that thing. Like I just do it like relationship building. And relationships to me are a lot like master keys. It's not like you need to know everything yourself in order to get like a really beautiful outcome because on the other side of any relationship is the access right into that right room, into that right business, into that opportunity. So for me it's just about building with amazing people and just creating real ways to be able to move with them with some velocity.
Definitely. Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, do you sometimes, does it sometimes take a toll on you, connecting with so many people out there?
It doesn't take a toll on me, it's really an honor. I tend to build things that are mostly very scalable. Um,
Okay.
I several years back when I was focused more on more multimedia, I'd met a gentleman and he was really passionate about photography too. I mentioned earlier I really love photography stuff, but he's really passionate about it. And we got into a talk because he had like a really successful software company. And he's making
Mhm.
millions and millions of dollars a month in software. And we had a discussion this one day, and I said to him, "Man, how are you making millions and millions of dollars every month doing software?" And you don't know how to do any software. And he said something that I'll never forget. And he was like, I don't need to know software. I need to know somebody who knows good software. And I know some really amazing people. And that really changed my entire outlook about like how I need to participate at what level at in anything. If I don't have the skill set myself or the access myself, somebody does. I need to meet that person, right? And it really gave me a different way to look at everything because I started then considering, hey, not only how can I make myself more scalable, but how can I start making money in my sleep, which is what he was doing. Uh, how can I start making money in my sleep? Because prior to that conversation, I had never even considered that that was a thing that people were doing, and it was a real thing. And so when I started to discover that, it then had me started looking at new lenses. how can I make money in my sleep, which is become more scalable? How can I get opportunities, and even if I'm not the source of the general work or the thing, how can I then facilitate that thing, right? And so it's not for me, I think in a very scalable way in most cases, and building relationships to me is really just an honor to do. So yeah, it's very much in alignment with the way that I want to do life. So it's definitely not stressful.
That's really great. Such a great answer. And yeah, and it's really a gift. You know, you interact with people, you get to know, you get to learn from them. Um, yeah, it's definitely a blessing. So thank you so much, LaShawn, for sharing these beautiful stories and so many wonderful insights into owning our narrative, owning our journey, our stories, our struggles, and our success and everything. So thank you so much once again for this powerful conversation.
So and thank you for having me. It was really just an honor to be here and share some cool stuff with you guys. And yeah, I mean, it's just this life is short, you know. It's it goes so fast, and we're trading it all the time. You know, when we talk about trading our time, we're not talking about trading time. We're talking about trading our life. You know, that's really what it is. And so if you can make that trade in a way that just propelling you and moving in alignment with how you want to be living, it just works out. So yeah, once again, thank you for having me. It's really been an honor to be here.
Wonderful, Lisha. Wonderful. And to all the listeners out there, I am inviting all of you to connect with LaShawn. Check out his book, A Culture of Equity, and follow his work. Connect with him on LinkedIn. And you'll find all the links in the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, as we always say on BizBlend, keep blending the business you build with the values you stand for, because that's where real leadership begins. See you next time on BizBlend. This is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.